everybody, Howard here with expanding double stops on guitar, explaining how you use them. This is sort of part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, I'll still review how to find them. But as promised in the previous video, what I want to do with this one is show you how to apply them to some basic 12-bar blues, okay? So I'll be doing a 12-bar blues in A, based around A7, D7, and E7. But I'll be using a straight-ahead boogie pattern. But I'm going to blatantly insert these double stops into a 12-bar blues pattern using that boogie pattern, okay? This is just a visual, if you will, example of where to put them and how they work, but I'm going to explain it all. We'll go into detail, and I'll even add some extras to it as well, okay? So let me do the musical example, the blatant musical example, and then we'll get right to it, okay? So let's get right to it. We've got a 1-4-5 progression in A. So we've got A. The 4 chord is D, of course. And the 5 chord is E. So that's based on 3 simple chords, an A7, a D7, and an E7. For the sake of simplicity, okay? So you've got a set of double stops that goes with each of those chords, okay? And they fit perfectly with those chords. So this is how you find them, as explained in my previous lesson on double stops, but I'll do it again here for those who maybe haven't seen that video. So if we look at the A7 chord, and we lift off all of our fingers except for the second one, you'll see that we're on the 6th fret on the G string, and that note, of course, is the major third of the chord. Now take your first finger and place it on the 5th fret on the first E string. Okay, you can play those notes together by using hybrid picking. You can play them individually. You can mute the B string out by laying this finger a little lazily across the G string. And you can just sweep across all 3 strings. But that is what I call the anchor, or the root position of finding these double stops. So you have double stops that ascend, they go higher in pitch, and double stops that descend. And these descend ones are the ones that sound particularly good with blues and country music, so I didn't cover them in the previous lesson. So again, this is how you find the root of your double stop movement. So your descending ones move like so. Go down a whole step to 4 and 3, then 2 and 2, and then finally open. So as you can hear, they're pretty effective, right? So as I said, you have ones that descend and ones that ascend. And the ones that ascend start the same way. It's the same spot. That's why I call it kind of the anchor spot. So you start with 5 and 6 again, 5 on the E string, 6 on the G string, and we play like this. Then place both of them in the 7th fret, same strings, 8th fret, 9th fret. And you can leave that 8th fret one in or out. It's up to you, but it does sound particularly good with blues. Right? So you can be playing that boogie pattern like what I was doing. You can say I played the descending pattern first, and followed by the ascending pattern. And you can see I'm just applying some sliding and stuff, just whatever you can do to make it sound colorful. Anything you want is going to sound pretty good. So you can see that I used the ascending one because I'm going to the 4 chord now, which is D, and that's particularly effective, right? takes us right to the D. So let me play all of that again, and then we'll talk about the double stops on the D. And then we go to the D chord. Find the double stops for the D chord in the exact same way as we did for the A chord, okay? So we want to take that shape, that A7 shape, all the way up to the 10th fret for a D7 chord, and we use the exact same pattern to figure this out. Remove all your fingers except your second one, and you'll be on the 11th fret on the G string, and then we want the first fret, or excuse me, the first string at the 10th fret. Take that down a whole step. Then 7 and 7, and then replacing the open strings with 5 and 5. And of course, if you wanted to, you could use the ascending pattern by playing 11 and 10, 12 and 12, 13 and 13, and 14 and 14. The choice is yours. Either one's going to sound pretty great, right? So let's go over all that again. Went back to A as typical 1-4-5 blues progression. Now let's talk about what I did on the E, okay? So we go to the 5 chord, which is E, and we could find the double stops the exact same way. We could go all the way up to the 12th fret, and we could do that. Or we could do. But what's really cool and a lot of fun is to combine these double stops across different strings. We're using so far the first E string and the G string, but let's do it with the B string and the D string. You can see the shapes are exactly the same. It's just a matter of where do you find them, okay? Well, this is how you find them, an easy way to find them off of the B and the D strings, okay? If you know the shape of a C7 chord, okay, that's a standard C chord with your pinky added to the 3rd fret on the G string. That's a movable shape, right? So that would be a C chord, so you could play this. You can see it's the exact same pattern, just different strings. It gives you an octave away down here. So if we take that shape and we move it to the 5th fret for a D7 chord, we can find our double stops there. Same thing for an E7 chord. Or, it's so easy, right? It's just based right off of those simple chord shapes. So what I did on the E was I envisioned that shape, an E7, and I played. And then I moved it all down to D. So this is really fun stuff to get into your playing, and it's really, really easy to do. You just want to remember how to find the double stops. So off of your 6-string 7th chords, it's always like this. Or, no matter where you're playing, you want to do it off of a G chord. You want to do it off of a B chord. The shapes are always the same. You just use the chord to find it. And after a while, you get to sort of memorize where those chords are on the fretboard, and it becomes pretty easy. So again, if I wanted to do it off of a G7 chord played at the 10th fret using that C7 shape, or again. So it's really quite simple, and once again, all you got to do is just use a couple of different shapes for the dominant 7th chords, and you can find these double stops all the way across the first 4 strings on the guitar. So let's talk about a few other double stops just for fun, okay? So again, if we're playing a blues in A, there's some cool little double stop patterns that I'll share with you that you can use. So if you know your blues scale or your minor pentatonic, it's all right inside that, okay? So I won't get into the theory too much about it, but knowing your chord inversions is really good. Those are all A7 chords, but I won't go there just yet, okay? So just know that off of that A7 chord, you can play this very cool double stop. And that's how you find it. So I played 7 on the D string, 5 on the G, 7 on the G, and then finally targeting 9 on the G string and adding the 8th fret on the B string to that. And you can slide into it from a half step, a whole step, whatever you want to do. But it's always going to sound great. It's a great little double stop pattern. It with the other double stops to add even more flavor to the picture, okay? Now when you go to the D chord, the D7, again, you're just targeting the chord really. So right there I'm just barring across the G string and the B string and sliding to the 7th fret. Again, you can do half steps if you want to, but that's going to get you inside the D chord. Right? So now you can combine those together. Same thing for the E chord. Just think of it as being on the 9th fret instead of the 7th. Back to the D chord. Just a little something extra that you can add to your playing, and it's pretty standard blues and blues rock stuff, right? What's really cool is you can combine these together, as I keep saying. You can play stuff like that right into stuff like that, and you can just go for days. And once again, it's just memorizing the patterns, which is really easy to do just off of 2 simple chord shapes. Okay, there you go with double stops on guitar explained part 2, the Blues Connection. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can use the super thanks button below, or you can become a member of 24/7 Guitar. It's a penny shy of $5 a month, and it helps support the channel. And so there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next video.